Are you into strange and spooky? Then you need to check out Shadow Market on June 27th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Manchester Event and Visitor Center in Manchester, Tennessee. It's just a short drive from Nashville. Shadow Market's a living tapestry of gothic goods, high fantasy, horror, dark art, oddities, and all things wonderfully weird. Pre-purchase tickets are just $11 or $15 at the door on the day of the event. You can purchase tickets and vendor booths now at shadowmarketus.com. Again, that's shadowmarketus.com. And be sure to follow Shadow Market on Facebook at facebook.com/shadowmarketus. Stay spooky. Welcome back to Southern Ghost Stories. I'm the American historian, Alan Searcy. Thank you for joining me today. Man, I'm already tired of summer and I'm ready for fall to get here. Fortunately, we only have a few more months until it'll be October and be here before we know it. So I was looking at the podcast and I noticed there were some new reviews on here and I wanted to read one of them for you. It comes from Clemson Fan 70. I'm not sure who that is exactly, but I'm going to guess they're likely from South Carolina since that's where Clemson is. But then again, I guess it's possible someone in North Dakota loves the Clemson Tigers. I don't know. But anyway, I'm thankful you guys left a review. So here it is. Hypnotizing. Alan has a way to grab the listener's attention and really get into the details with the stories. In my opinion, it's the best ghost podcast out there. Thank you. Man, that's nice to hear. Thank you. Again, to everyone who's left a review, I want to thank you too. Those really help. Please leave a review if you can, and I'll read them on air and give you a shout out on the show. So thank you, Clemson Fan 70. So, are y'all ready to start the show? I love Florida. As a kid, I took a whole lot of trips to Panama City. I love the white sand, the sun, and the great seafood, of course. I also love going to Disney World, but as I've gotten older and become more involved in the paranormal, I've become fascinated with the haunted history of the Sunshine State. I've spent a lot of time researching Florida for my books, and I've had strange encounters in Pensacola and St. Augustine. So today I figured, why not just do a show on St. Augustine? I mean, it is the oldest city in the country. Did you guys know that? So if you ever visited St. Augustine, Florida, you probably walked past one of the city's most unusual landmarks. Standing proudly along San Marco Avenue is a sprawling mansion that today houses the famous Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum. Tourists enter every day expecting to see shrunken heads, bizarre artifacts, and strange curiosities from around the world. And what many don't realize is that long before it became a museum of oddities, the building itself became one of Florida's greatest mysteries. A mystery involving fire, a mystery involving death, and a mystery involving a woman whose tragic final hours continue to fuel rumors, ghost stories, and murder theories more than 80 years later. Today we're exploring the haunted history of Castle Warden. The story begins not with ghosts, but with money. Lots of it. And not just wealth, extraordinary wealth. In the late 19th century, America was experiencing the explosive growth of the Gilded Age. Railroads stretched across the continent. Steel empires rose from industrial cities. Oil fortunes were made almost overnight. And one of the men who benefited from that boom was William Warden. Today, his name isn't nearly as famous as the man he worked beside. But in his day, William Warden was one of the most powerful oil executives in America. Born in Pennsylvania in 1840, Warden entered the oil industry during its infancy. The discovery of petroleum in western Pennsylvania transformed the region into a booming frontier of opportunity. Thousands rushed into the oil business hoping to strike it rich. And Warden proved to be exceptionally skilled. His business abilities eventually brought him into partnership with a rising entrepreneur, some guy named John D. Rockefeller. Together, they helped build what would become one of the most influential corporations in American history, Standard Oil. Warden wasn't merely an employee. He became one of Rockefeller's trusted associates and eventually served as a director of Standard Oil. During the company's meteoric rise, he accumulated an enormous fortune and became one of the wealthiest men in all of America. And like many affluent northerners of the era, Warden sought refuge from harsh winters. Florida was rapidly becoming a playground for the elite. Railroad magnate Henry Flagler was transforming St. Augustine into a luxurious winter destination, filled with grand hotels and lavish architecture. Warden wanted something a little more personal. In 1887, he commissioned the construction of a massive winter estate, unlike anything else in the city. The mansion became known as Castle Warden. Built in the Moorish Revival style, the structure looked almost like something transported from another continent. Towers, arches, balconies, and ornate details that gave the building an exotic appearance that immediately distinguished it from neighboring homes. The estate occupied several acres of beautifully landscaped grounds. There were stables, greenhouses, tennis courts, gardens, servants' quarters, everything necessary for the comfort of a wealthy industrial family. For nearly a decade, William Warden enjoyed his Florida retreat. But in 1895, tragedy struck. Warden died at age 55. Though his death marked the end of his personal connection to the estate, Castle Warden remained in family hands for decades afterward. The Warden family continued using the property as a winter residence until 1926. Eventually, the mansion fell silent. For years, the once grand estate stood largely vacant. Many historic homes died during these periods. Some are demolished. Others collapsed into ruin. Castle Warden nearly suffered the same fate. Then, in 1941, the property entered a fascinating new chapter. The mansion was purchased by Norton Baskin and his wife, acclaimed author Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings. Rawlings was already famous throughout America. Her novel The Yearling had won the Pulitzer Prize and established her as one of the South's most respected literary voices. Together they transformed Castle Warden to an elegant resort known as Castle Warden Hotel. Guests came seeking luxury, history, and the unique charm of Old St. Augustine. The hotel quickly developed a reputation as one of Florida's most distinctive destinations. No one could have imagined that within a few years, it would become the scene of one of the city's most haunting tragedies. April 23rd, 1944. The world was still engulfed in World War II. While Americans overseas fought on battlefields across Europe and the Pacific, visitors at Castle Warden settled in for what seemed like another peaceful evening. Sometime during the night, fire erupted on the third floor. Smoke quickly spread across the upper levels of the hotel. Guests were awakened and rushed towards exits. Panic filled the hallways. Staff members scrambled to help everyone escape. Most did. But not everyone. When firefighters finally gained control of the blaze, they made a grim discovery. 2 women had died. One was Betty Richardson, and the other was Ruth Hopkins Pickering. According to newspaper accounts, both women succumbed to smoke inhalation while trapped in their bathtubs. The death of Ruth Pickering immediately drew a lot of attention. She wasn't just another hotel guest. She was a personal friend of Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings. Rawlings had invited Ruth to stay at Castle Warden in hopes of helping her recover emotionally from difficulties in her personal life. Reports describe Ruth as a divorced woman struggling through a painful chapter of her life. The vacation was intended to provide peace. Instead, it ended in tragedy. Several days later, a funeral service was held inside Castle Warden itself. A surviving newspaper clipping from April 1944 provides a poignant glimpse into the event. The article described the ceremony as simple but exceedingly impressive. Ruth's coffin rested beneath 7 branched candelabras and was covered with exquisite red roses. Flowers filled the room. Friends gathered not in overwhelming sorrow, but in accordance with Ruth's own wishes. She expressed a desire that her funeral not be excessively solemn, but rather resemble a farewell gathering among friends before a journey. One speaker remembered her as a woman who never spoke of an unkind word of anybody, described her as possessing no malice, and spoke of her deep spiritual beliefs regarding life after death. For those present, it was a touching farewell. But as the years went on, questions emerged. And those questions would eventually transform a tragic accident to a lasting memory. Officially, investigators concluded the fire was likely accidental. Some believe cigarettes may have caused the blaze. But not everyone accepted that explanation, and rumors began to circulate. Some centered around Ruth's former husband, a prominent newspaper reporter. According to local speculation, the divorce had been contentious. As stories evolved over the decades, whispers emerged suggesting that someone may have deliberately set the fire as revenge. And there was never evidence supporting the theory. No arrest, no charges, no proof. Yet the rumor persisted. And then came an even darker story. Locals began speaking of a mysterious figure known as only Mr. X. According to the legend, Ruth had become romantically involved with a man in St. Augustine. The relationship allegedly turned dangerous. Some versions of the tale claim Ruth was murdered before the fire even began. In these stories, Mr. X supposedly suffocated her and then started the fire to conceal the crime. Again, there's no documented evidence supporting the claim. No police reports confirming homicide, no forensic findings indicating murder. Yet ghost stories rarely concern themselves with evidence. They survive because they are compelling. And this story certainly was. Whether the fire was an accident, arson, or something even more sinister, one fact remained. 2 women lost their lives in those third-floor rooms. And according to countless witnesses, neither woman may have ever truly left. Castle Warden continued operating as a hotel after the tragedy. In 1946, the property was sold. A few years later, another famous name enters the story. Robert Ripley. Known worldwide for his Believe It or Not empire, Ripley spent decades collecting unusual artifacts and bizarre curiosities from all around the world. When he learned of Castle Warden, he reportedly believed it would make a perfect museum. And fate intervened. Ripley died in 1949 before the project could be completed. But his estate carried out the plan. In 1950, Castle Warden became the first permanent Ripley's Believe It or Not museum. And if you haven't been to Ripley's Believe It or Not museum, it contains hundreds of strange and unusual artifacts gathered from around the globe. Among the displays are authentic shrunken heads from South America, intricate carvings made from single grains of rice, bizarre animal oddities, vampire killing kits, 2-headed creatures, and elaborate works of art created from unexpected materials. Guests can see rare cultural artifacts, unusual history, relics, optical illusions, and exhibits designed to challenge everything they think they know about reality. Throughout the museum, Ripley's famous motto comes to life: believe it or not. And as you would expect, shortly after the museum opened, strange stories began emerging. Employees working late at night reported hearing unexplained footsteps. Others heard metallic clinks and knocking sounds. Items moved around the museum without explanation. One employee described entering the gift shop in the morning and finding merchandise scattered across the floor despite carefully arranged the night before. Shelves reportedly toppled when no one was nearby. Objects appeared where they shouldn't have been. And then came the apparitions. I talked to a former employee, and she recalled taking a photograph around closing time. Inside the image appeared the outline of a man wearing what looked like a hat, but nobody had been standing there. The figure seemed to be peering through a front window. Perhaps the most disturbing activity occurs on the 3rd floor, the very place where Ruth Pickering and Betty Richardson died. A former employee told me about an experience she had while climbing the stairs. Without warning, something grabbed her hair from behind. Not a gentle tug, a violent yank. She described being physically jerked backwards. Other workers reported even more frightening encounters. According to one account, 2 members of management were walking through the 3rd floor when an unseen force suddenly grabbed a woman by her pants and dragged her across the floor. The man accompanying her later felt intense stinging on his neck. And when he checked a mirror, he discovered fresh scratch marks. A security manager reportedly nearly fell down the stairs after feeling an invisible shove coming from behind him. And visitors have their own stories. and the room where Betty Richardson died, it's now used as an auditorium. Witnesses have reported seeing a woman walk quietly through the space. When someone notices her and attempts to speak, she slowly fades away, as if she's disappearing into another time. Some believe the apparition is Betty. Others insist it's Ruth. And some paranormal investigators suggest both women, their souls remain there, forever connected to the place where their lives ended. Today, among the museum's collection of strange artifacts and impossible curiosities, visitors can find exhibits that acknowledge the deadly 1944 fire. The story of Ruth and Betty, they become part of Castle Warden's identity. A reminder that the building's most fascinating mystery isn't found inside a display case. It's woven into the walls themselves. Was the fire was it a tragic accident? Was there a darker story hidden beneath the investigation? Or have decades of rumor transformed a heartbreaking event to a legend? No one knows for sure. But late at night, when the museum grows quiet and shadows stretch across the cold corridors, employees still report hearing footsteps when no one is walking. They still hear doors open and close. They still feel unseen hands. And somewhere on that haunted third floor, many believe the spirits of two women continue their final stay there at Castle Warden. Not as guests, but as permanent residents. And perhaps that's the strangest thing Ripley never displayed. Because sometimes the most unbelievable story isn't inside the museum. Sometimes it's the museum itself. If you enjoyed this episode, check out my book, Ghost Stories in Graveyard Tales, Florida, where I dive deeper into the haunted history of the Sunshine State. So many great stories from the Pensacola Lighthouse, where I had my own experience. Other creepy places like the St. Augustine Jail, where I also had something really strange happen to me. I've talked about it on shows in the past. The book is available on Kindle too. If you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read the book for free. And speaking of books, make sure you head over to Amazon and pick up my latest one, Pistols at Red River, the Andrew Jackson Doolan story. It's a wild tale, but it's a lot of fun. Guys dressing up in suits and going to shoot each other in a field over a woman. What a time to be alive. Anyway, also, as I mentioned earlier, make sure you please leave a review. Subscribe to the show. It really helps, and it helps people find the podcast. And also, have you guys been to Monster City Madhouse yet? MonsterCityMadhouse.com. Their new shirt's a lot of fun. The Bride of Frankenstein has spoken, and honestly, she may have a point. The new Mini Monsters tee throws together a chaotic crew of pint-sized creatures, creepy cuteness, and vintage Halloween cartoon vibes into one gloriously weird design. Featuring tiny vampires, little mummies, swampy troublemakers, and one very unimpressed bride rocking the legendary line, "Boys are gross." You can use promo code SAVE10 to get 10% off your order. That's right, go to MonsterCityMadhouse.com, enter promo code SAVE10, you get 10% right off the top. Also, be sure to follow Southern Ghost Stories on Facebook and Instagram. You can send me comments and questions you'd like to hear answered on future Q&A shows, and I have one coming up here very, very soon. Also, don't forget the big shadow market coming this Saturday, June 27th, at the Manchester Event and Visitor Center in Manchester, Tennessee. It's just outside of Nashville. It's a pretty short drive. Shadow Market's a living tapestry of gothic goods, high fantasy, horror, dark art, oddities, and all things wonderfully weird. If I know you guys, you like stuff that's wonderfully weird. That's why you're listening to me. Anyway, right now tickets for the event are just $11, but they'll be $15 at the door the day of the event. You can purchase tickets and vendor booths now at ShadowMarketUS.com. Be sure you follow Shadow Market on Facebook, Facebook.com/ShadowMarketUS. Thank you guys for listening to me. I'm Alan Searcy, the American Historian. This has been Southern Ghost Stories. And check back tomorrow. Got a brand new episode that's going to drop. And I'm excited, man. This summer, it's going to be a lot of fun. October's going to be here soon. And I got 3 new books on the way. So you guys get ready. It's going to be a fun summer. If you love ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, and everything that goes bump in the night, then mark your calendars for the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo, happening September 26th in Mayfield, Kentucky at the Mayfield-Graves County Fairgrounds. This incredible one-day event brings together some of the biggest names in the paranormal community, including Aaron G. Thompson from Netflix's 28 Days Haunted, Jimmy and Jeffrey from Outlaw Paranormal, The Wind of Rose, Josh Morris, Michael Huntington, Rachel Ravensville, and many, many more special guests and speakers. Your admission is just $15, and that gets you an all-day come-and-go wristband so you can explore at your own pace. Browse more than 35 vendors, enjoy delicious food trucks, attend speaker presentations and panels, meet investigators, hear incredible stories, and dive into the worlds of hauntings, cryptids, UFOs, and the unexplained. Whether you're a seasoned ghost hunter or just curious about the mysteries that surround us, there's something for everyone at the West Kentucky Paranormal Expo. Tickets are on sale now. For more information, visit West Kentucky Paranormal Expo on Facebook and get ready for one of the most exciting paranormal events of the year. We'll see you in Mayfield on September 26th.